How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Clearing 101. We're going to go over the basics of clearing to give you a broad understanding of clearing, as well as options to be able to choose from as far as what clears you might want to run, why you'd want to run those clears, and then some drills that you're going to be able to do to help your clearing game get better. Let's talk about perfect spacing and perfect communication that will allow us to clear very effectively in this 3-on-2 situation. So first of all, if the ball's in the middle and A1's going to play the goalie, he'll throw it to a side. When that happens, the defense that is stacked will come and ride that man. So now we've got D1 guarded by A2 and our goalie guarded by A1. The first thing that has to be done that's very important is our goalie has to come halfway to D1 and be slightly behind him so that he can look over his shoulder and see D2 and the riding attackman. Why do we do this? Because now if A1 wants to take away our goalie, he has to come so far ball side that when the ball gets over to D2, he'll have a lot of time. He'll have enough time that if he bobbled the pass, he could scoop it up and still have time. Our goalie now has responsibility for communication. He needs to read if he's really being guarded by A1. If he is, he's going to say over, 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 and then we're going to throw the ball over to D2. And because we brought him over, because we brought this attackman over so far, it's going to give a lot of time for D2 to be able to get up the field and make a play. But a lot of times the attack is going to want to split, which is why we bring him over. If they decide they want to split, and our goalie is open at all, and I mean, you know, if he's open at all, and I'm saying 5 to 10 yards, if this guy's even 5 yards away and the goalie's open, the goalie needs to demand the ball. And now, if A1 comes and plays him, we throw it right over to D2 and he'll have even more time. Or if A2 chases that pass, D1 will get up the field and we'll throw it right back to D1. So the overload in the 3-on-2 is the whole key to clearing. Because if you can buy time for your clearing players here, they will be able to find the open people in the next level no matter what type of ride it is. Let's say D1 has the ball, A1 covers the goalie. The goalie says, over, 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 and D1 throws it all the way over to D2, who starts running up the field. Now A1 is going to chase him. Our goalie is going to have to come way over again on that side. A2 is going to have to come over. And now, with A1 on the ball, and our goalie overloaded, and A2, our goalie's going to make the same read on this side. If he feels that A2 is splitting, he's going to say, goalie, 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 and D2 will give it to him. He'll draw A2 and then they can throw it over, or he'll draw A1 and give it back. But we really like the clearing scenario where the ball gets to our goalie, because when you draw on a side, it's an easy out. If A2 really covers our goalie, then we're going to say, over, over, over. And because it's the second pass, we'll probably have D1 floating up a little bit. It comes over the top to him, and now we're going to be able to come out and find the open people up the field, depending upon what kind of ride it is. It could be finding the midi stepping over that has the mic. If it was a match feet situation, it might be us running it over. But we're going to have a lot of time to make the plays if our goalie has the discipline to come over to the ball side and make the read. Now, let's talk about this exact clearing scenario in the context of our third defenseman and our third attackman. When there's a shot save and our goalie has the ball and runs it behind because he doesn't have an immediate open player, we will have our defenseman banana out to the wings. Our goalie has the ball in the middle, and he's going to be reading the situation. If we have three down, meaning three attackmen are covering his wings and the goalie, then we have to have D3 in the middle as a release. He's about 15 yards, 5 yards from the restraining line, 15 yards from the goal line, and we have to be able to throw D3 the ball from either D1, the goalie, or D2. All those guys need to be able to throw that ball to the release. Let's say the goalie throws it to the defenseman, and we've got an attackman on D1. Our goalie comes over, and we've got an attackman on our goalie. We've got an attackman on our defenseman here. So what does our goalie say? He says over, 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 and we throw it all the way over. There will be times when they're going to do a delayed 3 down, and our defender in the middle, our release guy right here, needs to get open. We need to be able to throw the ball to D3, and that's how we're going to break the 4v3 that becomes a 3 down. First of all, let's understand that we have 7 clearing players, 3 defensemen, a goalie, and 3 midfielders. And I'm going to represent that here as D1, D1, goalie, and D3, M1, M2, M3, and M4. That's assuming we're subbing a defenseman out. If you don't want to sub a defenseman out, then you could have any one of these middies be a long pole. That's no problem. There will also be 6 riding players. So let's just say we have M1, M2, M3, A3, and then we've got 2 riding players on these guys down here, A1 and A2. So first of all, this is the setup that you'll get into when you're 7 against 6. And there are some basic principles in clearing that I want everyone to understand, which is that the defense will usually have to go with the deepest man. And so if M3 goes all the way down the field, M3 on the riding team is going to have to go with him. So now we look at it, if we stretch M3 down to the far restraining line and M3 on the riding team has to go with him, now we're clearing 6 against 5. Advantage clearing team. It's easier to clear 6 against 5 than 7 against 6. So that's why a lot of teams will stretch a man down the field. Likewise, if M2 stretched down the field, his riding M2 would have to go with him as well. Now that we've stretched 2 players down the field, we're clearing 5 against 4. Again, a bigger advantage for the clearing team. It's easier to clear 5 against 4 than 6 against 5 or 7 against 6. It's easier to identify, there's more space, and in general, it's a clearing advantage to be able to do that. The simplest way to clear is to identify which midfielder is being guarded by the attackman. We like to say, sort of with a football terminology, Who's got the mic? Where's the mic? M4 would be saying, I have the mic, I have the mic. And he's going to want to step over, sort of by the sideline here, about 10 yards over. And we're going to have to figure out a way to deliver him the ball on a pass that's not too long that we can make. And obviously, the rule, if M3 were to say, oh, I'm going to help over on this, then we go back to one of our main rules, which is that if you're open, come back for the ball. Okay? So anytime you're down the field and you're open, come back for the ball. Main rule in the clearing game. So we've got M4 stepping over, and A3 can't go over because he's an attackman. Of course, teams could do a match feet ride on you, meaning he could go over and stay. Everyone stays on sides. Some teams will do that. We will talk about it and prepare for it. But a lot of teams don't do it because they don't really want this guy back on defense, and it's a possibility that he gets stuck on defense. So let's figure out how are we going to get the ball to M4. So let's say the ball's here with D1. If A1 comes over and A2 comes over, then D1 would have to throw it all the way over to D3. He'd run it up a little bit and throw it over the top. Let's say the ball's here with D1 and A2 is splitting the goalie in D3. Well, the goalie would then get the ball and he would step up and either make the pass to M4 himself, or he would draw A2, he'd throw it over, and then D3 would run it up again, throw it over the top. Obviously, if M3 helps, then the clearing M3 will come back for it. Likewise, if M2 helped over here, if you're open and you come back for the ball, is the concept, and we're going to practice getting the ball to the open M4. Let's say that we identify that M4 has the mic and the ball's here with D3 and A2's on him. He would have to throw it all the way over the top to D1. D1 would have to move as close as he could to the midline and the middle to be able to throw that ball to M4. And obviously, if M3 is going to help, the clearing M3 comes back for it. If M2 is going to help, the clearing M2 comes back for it. And now we've worked at identifying the mic and figuring out how we're going to do this 3 against 2 to be able to have any one of these 3 players make the pass as short as possible so that we have the lowest risk possible. We're going to clear the same way in our 3-3-1 setup. If we identify that A3 is on M4, then we're going to figure out how to step him over. I got the mic, I got the mic. If D3 has it, he'll run right up. If the goalie has it, he'll get to the middle. If the far side guy has it, he'll get up into the middle. And we know that we're going to get to these 3 spots because there's a 3 against 2 down here. And in that 3 against 2, somebody is going to be able to be the open man to throw it to the mic. If D1 has the ball, it goes over the top to D3. D3 runs it up, floats it over the top. If A2 is splitting, then the goalie would come get it. D1 would give him the ball, and he'd run it up close to either throw it to M4 or draw A2 and then give it to D3, who's going to run it up closer and get it to M4. If D3 has the ball and goalie's covered, it goes over the top to D1. D1 would run it closer. We'd throw the ball to M4. If A1 was splitting, the goalie would come closer. We'd give it to the goalie, and he'd either run it up and throw it to M4, or maybe he'd draw A1, and then we'd give it to D1, and he'd run it up and we're going to practice throwing the ball to our step over man, who's the Mike, and we're going to work on that. So let's say that we've got M2 being guarded by A3. So he's going to have to try to get over, and we're going to have to figure out a way to get our 3-on-2, the ball to M2. When we're doing that, he doesn't want to go deep up the middle, but rather he wants to make cuts across the middle a little bit more flat. So let's say that D1 has the ball here, and A2 comes over to cover the goalie, and we throw it over to D3, and he starts running it up. We'll have M4 step over and M2 go flat, and we're going to be able to have the angle to A2 to M2 when A3 is going to have a hard time defending that angle. Obviously, if M3 comes and helps, then the clearing M3 comes back for it. By getting M4 to clearing out of the way, we have a very simple pattern of ball side guy steps over, brings his man out of there, M2 goes flat, D3 runs it up, and we throw the ball. Now, the one adjustment is that if D3 wants to run it over, M2 is going to have to get back on sides, which is one of the reasons why we're going to keep him flat. So we keep him on kind of a flat to the midline angle because it gives a better, shorter pass and an easier passing angle for D3 to be able to hit him coming across. And in the case that they're able to get their middies shifting over and we want to run it over, we can get back on sides because we will be off sides if D3, M2, M4 go over because M3 is already over. So let's talk a little bit about a match feet ride. This is where if these riding middies and attackmen stay on sides with their clearing midi that they're riding, then there won't be an offsides penalty and the clearing team won't be able to execute the easy step over, I got the mic, pass over the top. However, there's still going to be a riding situation down low of 3 against 2. So really, if they're going match feet, you're going to want to run the ball over with one of these 3 guys because these players, they might get open, but it's not like football where, you know, if you incomplete pass, it's 2nd and 10. It's a turnover, and it's a huge problem. You know, it's like throwing an interception on this. So we really want to make sure that we're capable of clearing in this situation, and we want to figure out what kind of match feet ride it is. Is it A1 and A2 on the defenseman and they're just going to let the goalie bring it up? It's like a goalie ride. Sometimes they'll do that. And sometimes they'll play 2 against 3 and just make your defenseman throw it over the top and makes one of them run it over. So our 3-on-2 drills are going to teach us how to break and buy time and give a lot of space. You know, so if D1 has the ball, our goalie is going to come over. We're going to force A2 to follow him over, over, over. In that case, the ball goes over to D3, and he's going to have a lot of time to be able to run this thing over. Now, but think about this. Do you really want to be in a 4 across when you have to run it over? Because you're kind of running into traffic. And the answer is, yeah, you could, because if D3 started running and these guys started running with them, you know, they might have an open play. But what I prefer is to stretch a couple players down the field. And now you've opened up the whole middle. So now you've got these riding locked players down here, M2 and M3, and with M2 and M3 down the field locked off, if D3 gets this ball from D1, he can come right down the middle, and the other, it's going to have to be a midfielder off of one of these two guys is going to have to get in to guard D3. So he's either going to have a pass to his wing or he's going to come down, and you can actually create some offense on this. And you can eventually cause them to draw and dump, and then M3 will get open, and you can make your passes from there. Let's talk about the match feet scenario with a goalie ride. So A1, A2, locking off D3 and D1. We stretch down the field with M2 and M3. The attackman's on M4. We know that he's got the mic, but it's a match feed, so he's not going to be open. So what do we teach our goalie to do? Our goalie is going to end up running it over. But what he wants to do, though, is he wants to come up the field and he wants to start faking passes to M4 and M1. Because he wants those defenders to stay on their man so that when he makes a break for it, they have a long way to go to try to catch up, whichever side they want to try to chase him down from. And if he can run right up the middle, it's a 3-on-2 between him and these two middies locked off by their middies. If those middies don't come, then he can come straight down the field into the box and he can create a 4-on-3 out of it. If they do come off him, then we're going to be able to get open. But the problem would be if the goalie just makes a break for it right here, that long stick is going to be able to track him down and put some serious pressure on. So it's very important that our goalie brings it up and he's like looking over here, he's looking over here, he's getting closer and closer and closer to the line. And obviously, if the long stick starts cheating early, well then we're going to be able to throw it right to our teammate. But those fakes are going to make the defenders stay on their man, and it's going to be like the parting of the Red Sea as he goes down, unless they decide to slide, and then the ball is cleared.